Hello and welcome to Quack and Smite League Season 5. We have an amateurs matchup between the King's Pawns and the Frost Pups here. I'm Hunter and joined with me is Top Hat. Top Hat, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just got home from work. Now I'm ready to cast this interesting set. Uh,
Yeah.
we do not have the picks and bans phase though, because they did have to recreate the lobby. But kind of looking at these matchups, what side are you favoring? And honestly, I kind of want to know what your opinion is on this draft.
I'm definitely leaning a little bit more towards the pawns. They got some pretty good meta picks here. They got the Kabrakan, they got the Gilgamesh, they even have a Charybdis here. But the Frost Pups, they got some okay picks of their own. They got the Serb for the soul. Get some anti heal going. They got the Medusa as well. What I'm interested in seeing though is this Oleron. I haven't seen Oleron in a very very long time. So we'll have to see how that pans out for him.
Yeah, they were nerfing magical ADCs quite a decent amount. Though Soul with this Vaporate has been seeing a lot of play. Did get pickup here along with the Kabrakan and Gilgamesh. Kind of crazy that you see though a Gilgamesh and a Kabrakan going on the same side of one team. How do you think that came to happen?
I just they got a lot of setup and a pretty decent amount of burst. I mean, you got Ganesh, the god of canceling literally everything with his silence. Kabrakan really good at setting up some easy damage for his teammates. He's got his ult. There's not a whole lot of jumps on the other team. They just got the Raven ult. They got the Cerberus jump. I feel like the Frost Pups are going to have a really tough time here fighting in and trying to get past this Pawn's front line. They just the Kabrak and the Ganesh are going to be huge. Lots of health at being as their guardians, and Gilgamesh himself is really hard to get off your back line.
Yeah, they have a very solid three front line kind of run at you, do a bunch of damage and set up. And then
Mm-hmm.
Soul Charybdis are, pretty safe in themselves. Don't really need a lot of their own peel, can kind of just peel themselves away if need be.
Exactly.
What do you think the Frost Pups can do in this one though to kind of maybe, turn the tides and maybe look to win? Are they just are you trying to say they need to come out to an early lead? Because I know you're saying once this Ganesha rotates, it's gonna be tough for them to get in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Although Robin is pretty well known for having an insane early to mid game, and then he just kind of falls off late. If Robin can be in really good spots, focus on the lanes that are actually doing pretty well, I could see the Frost Pups coming out ahead. But there's just so much that he's got to fight through. So much, CC, so much damage, and I feel like if this is Oleron ADC, he's probably gonna have a tough time into the Charybdis. The Charybdis just goes underground, gets away. Even with her ult, she's CC immune, so she can just run away from him as well. This is gonna be a tough time here for the Frostpups, in my opinion.
And now we're live into the action. Game one between the King's Pawns and Frost Pups underway. Pretty normal starts out of here. Pretty basic starts. Nothing insane here. So what? Basically, are you trying to say you want to see the Frost Pups get really active here early? Maybe try to run down one lane, get a massive lead, and then try and propel that lead across the entire game.
Absolutely, a Medusa early game. She can be pretty oppressive, but a Medusa from behind, same as a Raven from behind, it's just going to be a tough game. So I'm maybe hoping that Glacium really focuses on his mid laner really more than anything, help him get set up for success when the mid game swings around. The Horus as well. He's got some decent setup for his Oleron, but Oleron, once he hits level 5, maybe he's got some decent kill potential. I do see an interesting item pickup though for this Oleron. It looks like he went mannequins as a starter. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't really like it. Probably should have went arrow, but it is what it is. Though, speaking of that early pressure you were talking about, we did see the Gilgamesh pick up an early kill in the mid lane there. Now, this duo lane is kind of trading back and forth. Actually, surprising, the mannequin is working out in their favor, though, giving them a lot more pressure over this Charybdis and Ganesha, which you wouldn't think would happen. But maybe they're just not using their abilities quite properly in order to clear that wave.
Absolutely. That was kind of my thought process. Maybe they were thinking of alleviating the Oleron's early, kind of hard to get off the ground start with this mannequin to get a little bit more auto damage coming out.
As we do see massive poke coming out onto Oleron here. Oh, the heal coming in from the, oh my, why can't I think of the Horus there. And the Horus actually was forced to shell, and now a purple invade as Achilles on the other side of the map solos. Oh, Cerberus underneath his tier 1 tower. Kabrakan is quite literally a lane bully, I feel like, in a lot of these roles. As the fight breaks out into the duo lane, we have the Frost Pups, or my bad, not the King Spawn setting their sight onto Legacy, picking up the kill there, and now are turning their attention to the Horus. His dash already down. They should be able to pick up this kill, but no. They said, let's not press too much forward. We don't know where the rotations are coming from their teammates, and instead, get out.
I feel like that was just a classic case of miscommunication. Robin was there doing the purple buff while the Oleron was just getting ran down. Like we were saying earlier, Robin early game is nuts. His one just does so much damage. He's got really good setup for himself too with his 3. He's got CC immunity with his 2. He's just got so much potential to really demolish people early game, but he decided to drop the purple instead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do have Ravana, a very good early game god, but on the same end, Gilgamesh is kind of in that same boat where his early game and mid game is pretty good. As we see, this Horus taking a lot of poke there, safely dashing away. That Ganesh silence though coming in play massively, as he was not able to dash away and took a lot more poke than what he wanted. But Oleron returning the damage. So we were saying this blue team really needs to get an early lead in order to kind of, as the Horus dashes in for some reason, a lot of poke coming out onto the Ganesh, and they do end up picking up the kill. But General Taylor dashing in, able to trade blows. Mannequins coming in, and Legacy picking up the kill on the General Taylor.
Let's go. Unfortunately, that's not gonna, catch them up with they were almost 2K down, but it should start to get a little bit closer to maybe 1K. But like we were saying, this red team needs to come out to a hot start. They need to set themselves up for success. And yes, Legacy did just get a double kill. Unfortunately, this Kabrakan is doing some work in the solo lane. And,
yeah, the Kabrakan picking up another solo kill. My bad, they're top hat. But one question I wanted to ask you real quick. So, we were saying they need this early game presence in order to maybe try and propel them forward, because team fighting, it looks like it's going to be really easy for this blue team to kind of self-heal each other and lock down one target and it's completely burst them. So with the red team down 1.6k already, what should they look to kind of do? Should they just kind of, get to the team fighting stage and pray that they can kind of, win an organized fight, kind of hope the red team makes a mistake? Or should maybe they start taking a little bit more risks, maybe invade, something like that, to try and chip away some farm in this lead?
Definitely. I would prefer that Cerberus here would love and hate would play it just a little bit more passively. He's already 2 levels down. He doesn't have a full defense item online yet. This Cerberus is huge. He's got Vamp Shroud, he's Ruin already, which is an interesting first item to go. Oh my.
As Lyman Nelson making a big gank into the duo lane. The Winds of Shamash coming out, picking up the kill onto Oleron, and now Horus falls in the wake too. They did get a double kill earlier, but the blue team says, oh no, we'll come right back with a double kill of our own. And now almost a 3k gold lead in favor of the Knights Pawns.
That actually brings me to an excellent transition here, because the next thing I was going to say is I would like to see more wards on this duo side. And they absolutely get punished for having 0 ward coverage. I feel like, at this point, they should be understanding that they're going to be a focus. Their duo lane is just getting on top of stuff.
As we do see a big fight coming out here around the Fire Giant. Little Beano coming in with the rotations, picking up the kill onto the solo laner, and now there's no way this jungler's gonna be able to get out, and he does fall. By the way, the Kabrakan, massive, a 3v1, is able to turn around, ult, CC one person, and then in comes the Soul and just absolutely demolishes them.
Yep, and that's really highlighting exactly what we were talking about with this blue team. They have so much self-setup, so much self-heal, so much damage.
As the Charybdis ult ends Legacy's life, back to the gray screen for him, and That's kind of the problem with Charybdis into an Oleron, right? Like he
Definitely.
just goes underground and your ults is useless.
Yep, and that's a huge issue. To be honest, I wish we could have had the picks and bans because I really would have liked to see where this Oleron was picked. I'm assuming that it was top 3 because I don't feel like picking Oleron and then somehow getting counterpicked by Charybdis
Yeah,
just
maybe
happens in a different situation. But
maybe they saw the soul and then thought that was the ADC, and then so picked the Oleron as kind of like the counter or as kind of to combat the
maybe.
soul. And then
Yeah.
they thought, hey, we'll switch it up and go mid. But this solo lead is getting massive. I mean, Achilles, he's so tanky right now with just his starter and his passive that he
Hmm.
decided to not even opt for defense and went Divine Ruin starter. So now he's actually gonna be pumping out a lot of damage like he's a jungler. As he goes in, full engage underneath the tier 1 tower, ults, 1s, 2s, and Cerberus barely getting away with his life. And look, yeah, he got hit 7 times with that tower and only did half his HP.
Yeah, that's the bonkersness of playing a guardian and having damage. It's something I will never understand. The Cerberus being a guardian as well, having a
The
tank
winds
item.
of Shamash coming out, picking up the kill in a massive Ganesha ult, killing Vulpes. And now they're setting their sights onto the Gold Fury.
Yeah, it's just interesting though. That Achilles here is getting away with going a damage item first, and Love and Hate here has a Pesty as his first item. He's still just he can't fight into him at all. The bracket has such a huge level lead now at this point. Love and Hate definitely just needs to sit back, start taking his junglers back camps. Maybe just the smalls at least, because it does look like Glacium is a little bit behind. Or the Achilles, chill out.
Oh my goodness, the ult 1-2, but he might have got a little overzealous. A shell comes out, and Sweaty Sacks finally kills this monster. Falling wayside, and making this mid lane a little bit more massive in the process, but it's still a 3-level lead over, as we see Charybdis forcing the ult around the ult, but here we go again with that, just kind of immunes his ultimate, but instead it sets his sight onto the wave instead of his target. And now look at this Charybdis though, 3 levels up. They need to start relieving pressure in one of these lanes, either duo lane or solo. Which lane do you think you would start with?
I would probably start in the duo lane. It's better to have your carries to be more fed, more ahead. Cerberus really should be, if anything, stalemating lane when he's in lane. He can be a lane bully against certain picks. I just got off to a rough start and got soloed right away. But if I'm Glacium, that's definitely where I'm setting my focus. I'm setting my focus on mid and duo. Just give up on the solo lane. Let Love and Hate farm. Let Love and Hate get to mid to late game. See if he can somehow catch up by taking some of the back camps, rotating around, warding for these objectives that are going to be coming up soon. Because if they continue to let the pawns continue at this pace, they're going to get steamrolled. And I feel like that's just an issue with Ama's teams, is when one team gets really far ahead, they start focusing on doing stuff themselves instead of playing as a team. And I would hate to see that happen during this game.
As we do see those Cerberus stealing those back camps that you were talking about, and now they're setting their sights on the Pyro. We have the Frost Buffs here coming to make a defense. Medusa all coming out a little bit too early, and actually the red team does end up stealing that though. But now the Winds of Shamash comes out as they're chasing down Medusa on the back end. Little Vino picking up the kill onto the support and the jungler. 2 for the price of 0, but they did trade out. Actually make it 3 for the price of 0, but they were able to steal away that Pyro. I don't know if that was worth it though.
I'm gonna lean towards no. I think Glacium just got a little bit too much of the heroes complex going on there as he jumps in and tries to help out his support. Definitely in situations like that, you just let the support go. It's not worth trading out 3 just to try and help out your support if you're gonna die like that. It's just really unfortunate, this Gilg is 3-0 and 5. He's only a level up somehow, which is wild to me, which means Glacium is doing okay at farming, even though his back camps did get taken once. I would love to see maybe net worth. Would be pretty awesome to see right now. Perfect. Yeah, that's really interesting. See, Glacium is still at the bottom of the network. I'm not really sure how that happened. Oh.
Oh my, as we see a big ult coming out of General Talia there, but unable to finish the kill, just a little off the mark. But somehow Legacy starting to bring this lead back a little bit. He was down, what, 3 levels almost, and now only a level. I guess maybe he poked out this Charybdis a little bit and allowed him to farm those neutral camps. But again, I don't know. We're starting to get to that point where it's like, this King's Pawns team, their team comp's going to start to play a bigger factor here, as we do see Vulpes here trying to secure this purple buff for his team, but ends up failing, and now just getting slapped by auto after auto. And in fact, Genitalia is actually looking to go in, ult coming out of the Oler on the back end, Ganesh ulting for Peel, dash in by the Horus, but nothing, and Genitalia is safely out. But now the teleport in from Achilles, blink in, big one, big two, three, that should be able to pick up the kill. Ultimate coming out, picking up the kill on the Vulpes, and now killing Farmer Helen on the back end of it.
Yeah, this should definitely be 2 tier 1s here for the pawns. I'm not really sure what is what they're trying to work towards here. You do keep seeing the support kind of putting himself out of position, and Glacium just continuing to try and to walk in and help out his team. Like I was saying, sometimes in those situations you just gotta let them go. You're putting yourself. Not only is your support putting himself behind, but when you get that hero combo scaling, you're starting to put your own self behind as well, and that doesn't bode well for your team. As you can see now, it's 17-3. There's almost a 10k gold lead. I think that's about 8k. It's. I know it's hard to do, but you just gotta take a deep breath. Think more towards farming, maybe grouping up a little bit earlier than teams normally do.
As we see this Oleron getting killed on by a big gank behind from Achilles, and then now we see Genitalia cleaning up Horus right there. Those autos from Genitalia, he didn't even have to use any key abilities. He literally hit him with the 2, just used the 1, and almost soloed him with that alone, taking no poke in return, and now we're going to clean up this gold Fury in the process. So, okay, now I have a question here, right? So now they're behind in almost every single lane. Builds looking a little questionable on the side of the Frost Pups here. You have a Rune Forge coming out of the jungle. You'd have double anti-heal coming out of this Cerberus, even though with his passive, he also has anti-heal. Do you think these builds are also going to play a key, demise in this Frost Pups team, or do you think maybe they can start bleeding this lead down a little bit and figuring out a way to come back?
See, that's another good point here. The problem is that if the pawns start grouping up and they just start 5-manning these objectives, 5-manning every single lane, the Frost Pups aren't really going to have an opportunity to do anything, really. They're just going to have to continue to give up these objectives. It's unfortunate, I know, but...
Blinking by Kraken, 1-2ing, ulting, forcing the Oleron all on the backside, but in comes little Bino, ganking like he's a jungler, and picks up the kill on the Legacy, and now they're setting their sight on 11 hate. He's not real too tanky here, only has a little bit of defense, mainly magical, but still falls to the soul. This has to be a Fire Giant call here.
Absolutely, and I definitely be happy to see that. Just kind of let them do whatever it is they're doing on the map. What I was saying that the Frost Pups should do, I think the Pawns should do the exact opposite. They should be grouping up, start slamming these objectives, don't even pay attention to what the Frost Pups are doing. Continue to build off this humongous lead that you have, and don't let them do anything about it. They let them continue to try and farm. Just start taking down these lanes, start taking down these towers, start looking at 1 or 2 picks here and there and clean up objectives. Just keep farming and put yourself massively ahead, because eventually your whole team, the pawns are gonna hit 20, and at the rate that this is going, I don't know if the prospects ever will.
Oh my, as Farmer Helen steps up and just gets deleted. I mean, at this point, there's nothing he can really do. He is now 5 levels down to the other support. He's 8 levels down to the mid laners. Genitalia solo sweaty sacks somewhere on the map. Oh, over in the dual lane. Mid laner rotating to the dual lane for some reason and actually falls. Meanwhile, all while that was going on earlier, we did see Vulpes kind of split pushing while his team was getting attacked on. By kind of split push to the mid lane there, as we see Achilles, unfazed by any of this, just kind of 1v3ing around this red buff here. I mean, at this point in time, what do you think the King's Pawn should do? Shouldn't they just be grouping up and doing Fire Giant right now?
Definitely. Oh well, I mean, they could probably try and pull fire, but they definitely, once they recognize that
The up down from Vulpes, getting the Oleron ult and the Cerberus ult. 3 ultimates just to kill one guy, and Achilles finally falls a little too greedy. He decided to step up a little too much and falls by the wayside to the Frost Pups.
yeah, and at this point, I'm not going to fault them for doing stuff like that. I will fault them for doing this though. You're
Yes.
getting way too aggressive. You're
Stepping up as they have no ultimates. Lyman Nelson picking up the kill on the Legacy there. Now they're forced to retreat, but it might be a little bit too late as Genitalia kills Mr. Farmer there on the guy. Why can't I speak today? Lyman Nelson picking up the kill onto Vulpes, and now they're setting their sights onto this mid tower. Should easily fall, and then Fire Giant has to be the call after this. Finally, 17 minutes, a 29-4 kill lead, the way of the King's Pawns.
Absolutely. I just, when they used 4 ults to kill the Cabrakan, it is tough to make a call like that. But obviously they were communicating well enough to understand that they could kill the Cabrakan, even though he's humongous. He's got 2 levels over everybody that's on the other team. But they worked together. They got a pick. And I definitely think at that point in time, you just start looking for what kind of farm you can get now that you're playing a 5v4. I don't really agree with the running down mid lane decision, but maybe once you start grabbing farms, you can start catching up in levels. You're not going to be 2, 3, 4, even 8 levels down like you were talking about. But now the pawns they're gonna grab the Fire Giant. They're gonna grab this tier 2. They should probably group up and grab the Oni just to kind of make
big ult coming out of Arc there, forcing the Legacy to Aegis, but not enough as he still falls wayside. Now this actually might be game here. I don't really see a way that they're going to be able to stop this siege onto the Phoenixes, but instead they decide to go for the tier 2 tower in right. I mean, is this at that 99% right now where like there's almost no way that the King's Pawns can lose this game?
Oh, for sure. The Oleron ult would have been massive for a Phoenix defense here, and that's
as we see Horus just kind of fighting in the jungle for whatever reason. Little Bino picks up the kill on there. Now the siege into the Phoenixes. Lyman finishes off Love and Hate, and now they just are simply going to take this Phoenix down and end game number 1. There's no way that the Frost Pups are going to be able to stop them.
Yeah. It's just really unfortunate. A lot of getting caught out of position, a lot of being in positions that you shouldn't be in, which is literally the same thing that I just said.
Though Oleron, different agenda on his mind as he sends out a decent ultimate, forcing the King's Pawns back, but after the ult falls, so does Legacy, and Sweaty Sacks actually picking up a double on the backup, but a massive Corinthus ult resets, killing Vulpes, and now they are just going to simply attack this Titan. I actually don't know if they're gonna have enough to end the game, but Sweaty Sacks dashes in. Why would he do that? And now Helen's gonna die too. Oh my! And now Cerberus jumps in. They're 1v3ing every single time. So, and this actually should be game now. Go ahead, Top Hat, and finish it off here.
Do you see the unfortunate part here? The part that I'm not understanding is they have little moments of success, and instead of capitalizing on them, they just continue to throw themselves at it, and that's not a winning recipe. If those two, if the Medusa and Farmer Helen had backed off, gone back to their fountain, healed back up, Love and Hate was spawning right back up, then it could have been a 3v3. Cerberus had his ult up, he was ready to go. In my opinion, they definitely could have defended, and now they're in a prime place to get back into the game. Unfortunately, as we saw, that wasn't the case. But
I mean, it was very odd. It's almost like you're playing it was almost like the Frost Pups are playing a rank game. You have some people doing buffs while you have a massive team fights going on. You have your jungler split push in the mid camp while you have 2 other people fighting into 4 at Fire Giant. It just seemed like the Frost Pups are a little disorganized in these team fights, and I feel like that just kind of started early, and then it continued throughout most of the game. And when you're disorganized, not kind of grouped together with no real purpose, you're definitely not going to come back from a 10K deficit.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the hardest things for Amos teams to learn, is that communication is absolutely key. Positioning, absolutely key. Learning how to play with each other and understand that even though Farmer Helen is 0-9, there is still an opportunity to get back into the game. You just need to communicate. You need to play together. You know, start grouping up earlier in the game than teams normally do, and start running around as a 5-man death squad. Stop these guys from taking objectives if you can. Stop them from taking your back camps. Just splitting farm 5 ways is definitely better than not getting farm at all.
Yeah, I
And
mean, we did see Achilles just kind of stealing those backhands on cooldown. Though Volpus was somehow still, able to stay a little equal to
Mhm.
Lyman there for most of that early game. But I mean, when you got a 4K jungler in terms of damage, your soul laner's only dishing out 3K, and your support. I mean, he is a support, but Horse, Horse has some damage output. I mean, only
Definitely.
1K out of them. I mean, I don't really see in what world you can ever, let alone win a team fight, but win a game with that type of damage.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is he also only has 500 healing. And I think that's just kind of what happens.
Yeah,
Achilles was creating so much space for his team, just W keying at everybody that showed up in front of him, really setting his team up for success, dominating the solo lane. General not really losing really anything. I mean, he did die early game. He was getting a little out pressured when Glacium showed up a few times in dual lane, but he just turned it around. It's a classic case of W key. You just keep running and running and running and running it down and not letting anybody do anything, and this is how those games turn out.
well, on that note, we'll go to a quick intermission, and then maybe into the next picks and ban phase, we can discuss a little bit of what the Frost Pups can change around or can change to make a comeback in game number 2.
Looking forward to it.
All right, well, now we are back again. I mean, we had a lot of insightful talk there, but didn't really pan out. You guys couldn't really hear us. But going to these picks and bans, we have Gilgamesh, Cleo, and Thoth getting banned out from the Frost Pups there. Gilgamesh, big impactful player of that last game, so they decided to ban it out. And then on the side of the pawns,
Evil
they banned
doesn't
out
stand a
Bastet,
chance.
Amaterasu, and Ardio, and get that Kabrakan again. That Kabrakan that popped off in game number 1 is coming back to the pawns. And then we do see the Frost Pups here cleaning out with an E-set pick and a Bacchus pickup.
This is really interesting to me. I feel like the Kabrakan did way too much work to just let through again, or at least pick yourselves. There's no way you let the pawns get the Kabrakan again. But maybe I'm struggling to think of how they're going to mitigate the Kabrakan. Their mid laner doesn't really have an escape. Charybdis, she can just go underground. Bacchus has his jump. They have an Odin though, so once the Charybdis uses her escape, she's just gonna get Odin caged, or vice versa. They got the Ganesh as well, which I'm sure as many of you know, Ganesh does not stop Charybdis from going underground, which is really annoying. But they do round out. These are some. These bands are just interesting. You got a
Yeah.
Fenrir and a Dodgy band.
Yeah, I mean, going into the second phase, kind of weird though that they did pick E-set into Kabrakan and feel like almost like Kabrakan just kind of run her down. But you do see the bans on the pawns here: Fenrir, Dodgy, decent ban. They don't have a lot of CC immunity ults, so that's a decent ban.
Right.
And then Fenrir, with the nerfs to him, you don't see maybe a lot of play. I mean, and with a Ganesha, it is maybe a little odd to ban that Fenrir, but they decided they didn't want to deal with it themselves. On the side of the Frost Pups, though, they banned that Oleron out and they banned that Soul too. So, didn't want to deal with that Soul again in the mid lane, and then actually deciding they don't want to pick Oleron this game since they have the Charybdis and ban it out themselves. Set going the way of
Now
the
is the
pawns
time.
and Ravana again for the Frost Pups. Where do you think this set is going?
I'm assuming jungle. He can be played in solo, but I don't know if he'd be played down
He might be
down
ADC
in
actually.
Almas. Ooh, you might be right.
Kraken jungle set ADC, yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. I feel like the pawns are just kind of playing just to play this game. It's set ADC, huh?
I mean, they have a full rundown team comp, honestly.
They
Kabrak
do.
and Odin, Ganesha, even a Set and a Jean Kui, all of them just kind of want to get active and run onto the back line. Don't really care for any any care for backline peel or anything like that. Frost Pups though, getting that Ravana again, I guess that's a comfort pick onto the jungler though. Didn't show a lot in that game 1 if I'm being honest. And then Nike to finish that one out, more safer guy in the soul lane. Don't really want their soul laner going down 3 levels again to this Kabrakan. So deciding for, a much safer pick, can jump away, can ult, get a massive shield. Just a much safer pick in the soul lane for them.
Yeah, this should be a little bit better of a solo lane. Nike has her jump to escape. She's got a little bit of ranged poke with her one. Her shield even can push Kabrakan out of his tremors, his ground and pound. I don't know if you really want to just use it for that, but you could. This is just going to be This is going to be interesting to watch for sure because, like you were saying, the pawns have such a run it down comp. They don't really necessarily need a whole lot of peel. They have a Ganesh to sit on their backline here, but there's not really backline.
Yeah, their backline's going to be diving their backline. Yeah,
right. So I guess that kind of pans out in the scheme of things. The interesting thing that I want to look at here is how the Frost Pups are really going to deal with this. They got range, a lot of ranged damage. They got an E set. Hopefully keep her from getting poked down too much with her ult. They got a Bacchus with his jump and his burp. So I don't know.
And we are going into game 2 real quick. Sorry to cut you off there, but yeah, go ahead and continue. Like, maybe the Frost Pups and me look to play more around that E set ult, just try and single out one target, pick them off, and then kind of run away after that. Whereas it looks like maybe from the King's Pawn side, it's just I'm holding W key, and if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose.
Absolutely. The reason I keep saying this is going to be interesting is because the Frost Pups do have denial. They do have an E-set. They do have a Charybdis. So maybe their thought process here is just keep pushing him back because they do have a lot of upfront damage, and the King's pawns definitely have to be right on top of people to get a lot of their damage out. So they could be looking to punish him. General should, in my mind, have a hard time out clearing this Charybdis, but
as you're saying that though, Charybdis is getting poked out, forced to beads, set, going to pick up an early kill on wave 1. That's kind of the thing though, if you go shell on wave number 1 instead of, and then we do see a fight coming out here, Vulpes trying to keep his jungler alive as Lyman is running him down in the jungle. He should be able to kind of find the kill here, blinking in on him, hitting the 2. He doesn't have his 1, I don't think. No, he does have his 1, but decided to engage with his 2 and does end up picking up the kill onto Legacy. Quite an odd one there in the jungle, but nonetheless, another early massive lead. As I'm saying, Genitalia picks up Farmer Helen in the dual lane, and now a massive lead goes the way of the King's Pawns.
This is definitely not the start you want to see if you're the Frost Pups or a Frost Pups fan. Linemen took advantage of Legacy not really being able to fight back into him as the Cabrakan got his back stolen. He died early already. And this isn't what you want for a Robin. You want Robin to be able to free farm for the first few minutes here so he can just start dominating people, but this definitely doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And the same thing that happened in the dueling. General just being allowed to play literally whatever he wants, because we're seeing the set come back.
Yeah, I mean, this Ravana pickup a tad bit odd in my opinion. I mean, maybe you'd want to see something that has more lockdown for this E set, like has more maybe setup for this massive burst. But as you were saying, right, early game he does his damage, he does his thing, but as this game gets later and later, it's going to be heavily dependent then on this E set. As Achilles now saw his love and hate, and we were talking about how safe Nike was, not safe enough into an Odin as he falls. But as I was saying, right, like this Ravana laking, it's a lot of the burden is going to be as the Ravana is ganking in only level 2 though, probably not going to be able to pick up the kill on the Genitalia as they both safely get out alive. Yeah, he actually just left. A little odd. I mean, I don't know. He should really just be looking to farm at this point. Pretty much basically down a whole level. It's about to be 2 really to Nelson here pretty soon as he's cleaning up that red buff. But I mean, what other god do you think they should have probably went in the jungle? Do you think maybe something with more impactful ulting late, or maybe just something high pressure like they went here with this Ravana?
I'd probably lean a little bit more towards like what you were talking about earlier, a little bit more setup. I feel like that's kind of what they're struggling with really. They're picking gods that do have a ton of damage, but they're just kind of lacking in the setup department. And going back to having another Robin in the game, as we're seeing, he's supposed to dominate early. But when you get picked and you can't even get your own back camps, it's just going to sit you farther and farther behind. And Robin, being a late game god in the first place, struggling early is not where you want to be. I definitely feel like the King's Pawns, just again, they need to take a deep... I mean, the King's Pawns, the Frost Pups, they need to take a deep breath. They need to understand that they're, once again, playing from behind in the early game. If you continue to let them snowball, it's just going to lead to another quick victory for the Pawns.
Yeah, I mean, and the King's Pawns out to a big lead, like you were saying, a 2K gold lead already again. Ultimate's up here on the dual lane. Oh my goodness, as Little Bino finds the kill on Vulpes in the mid lane. As we were discussing how maybe an engage would look, but Legacy is saying, hey, I'm gonna pick up this Cabrakan on the mids. I don't know why he thinks he can just sit here and smack him down, but mid laner coming for the peel, and Legacy is forced to get out.
This is just really tough. I think they need to help this mid laner really focus on getting these side harpies, get this E set ahead. And fighting an E set that's big is really tough. It's not fun. Fighting a Robin as well, that's big and ahead, not fun. But when they're behind, they're some of the easiest characters to just pick off and take care of.
Yeah, I mean, and back to my point where I was like saying it's almost like they're kind of playing like ranked mentality. They're just kind of no real like cohesion or coordination or anything. This this Odin is just able to freely do whatever he wants on the solo side of the map, as you see him just jumping in with no fear as he attempts to steal the blue and ends up doing it, I believe. Yes, I do believe he stole that blue. But again, like, right, like there's just no coordination here. Like people are doing backs on one side of the map while you do have this Bacchus and Charybdis up here as they get blinked on by the set. But again, see, that's what I'm trying to talk about. Now there's going to be no peel. Helen forced to use his shell there just to be able to survive and get out, but they're sending their sights onto them. Charybdis wants to ult out. Beads coming out of Genitalia, all a little bit off the mark there. The big Ganesha ult in Farmer Helen is going to fall by way of the clones.
They just need to work a little bit better with Legacy here on this Robin. He needs to be showing up at the blue camp here for a solo laner. You know, start getting these timers down. If the Frost Pups want to invade the Pawn's purple camp, you know, show up, be there for them. The side camps like I was talking about earlier. Let's get some pressure in mid. Start forcing these people back so we can start taking these side camps. And once they start doing stuff like that, you know, they can start placing up aggressive wards, start invading back. So let's make sure.
Oh no, a big engagement coming out here in the mid lane. Lyman Nelson setting his sights onto Nirvana, but Bacchus coming in with a massive peel. Odin jumping in from the side, Cage coming out, and Legacy has fallen, and now they are turning their attention to Helen, and he falls. And I don't know, this game is starting to get out of hand here. But okay, so again, we were saying W key. As you see here, they are W key down as 4 are splitting a mid camp, and now they are looking to turn their attention to this Gold Fury. But again, like what do the Frost Pups do in this game? Like again, they're behind in a lot of key roles, as like a lot like last game. Is there anything they can, you know, kind of flip the switch on from last game, that like any small little things that will you know, make a big difference that will help them win this one?
Absolutely. I think one of the small changes was something that I was talking about earlier with this jungler. The jungler needs to show up to the timers on the camp. Start securing your own back camps first before we start looking at invading. Let's see if we can mitigate some of this pressure just by showing up in a lane and making sure that my laner can full clear their own wave, and then start looking at some picks.
As we see Legacy going in by himself into a 1v2 and just instantly falls to Genitalia. That's and now Sweaty Sacks coming in on the back end of it. This is kind of what we were talking about, just sporadic 1v1 running in, you know, and just giving them free kills. Honestly, though, somehow Sweaty Sacks does have a lead in this duo lane. But again, you keep going back to this point, farming, right? So, you know, for maybe people that don't know, what type of farm should they maybe prioritize? Should they just be, you know, farming their back camps and just kind of giving up everything else, or should maybe they be trying to contest these mids and neutral camps?
You know, if they were still pretty even in levels, or even in gold even, I would definitely say start contesting the mid, start contesting these objectives. But when you're this far behind already, this early in the game,
I will put that on. As we do see ESET rotating in, trying to pick up the kill on Genitalia, but everyone missing all of their abilities, and the red team safely just gonna kind of get out of here. Kind of weird engagement. Again, no one really selecting any one target. ESET kind of going on the backliner while Bacchus was jumping on this mid laner Zhongqi, and in comes the Cabrakan blink in, ult coming out. That's that lockdown I was talking about, but ultimate coming out of ESET will easily be able to keep her alive as it heals her back up.
In my opinion, this should be a dub for Frost Pups, because we see Achilles proxying even behind the T2 tower, but for some reason Nike is more focused on clearing up the camps.
As Legacy stops his back, oh my, and Achilles picking up the kill on him at the tier 2 tower. I mean, I don't know, like every single time something happens on one side of the map, someone on the Frost Pups is dying on the other side of the map. Like, at what point will you guys just, like, at what point did they just start, you know, prioritizing farm, and instead of just looking for these random ganks that aren't really paying out in their intention and the direction? I do believe that Top Hat might have to actually go here, so I'm gonna be taking over for the next couple of minutes though. But I mean, this is a tough one for the Frost Pups here. They're very far down in farm, and they're trying to make these crucial ganks in the lanes. But they're doing it not as a cohesive unit. A lot of the times it's 1v1 fighting, kind of sporadic all over the place. You're not going to kill someone that's 3 levels up on you. Like, what is this Ravana going to do up against a level 11 Odin? Really, at this point, it's nothing. Maybe they need to, look to prioritize a 4-man gank into a lane, a 3-man gank. Just do anything to relieve pressure. As Farmer Helen again called out by himself on the enemy side of the jungle, forced the ult just to slow him down. But in comes Genitalia to pick up the kill on the set, but no backs off, and Farmer Helen is able to easily escape. Red buff though going the way of the King's Pawn. Meanwhile, Odin 1v3 in the mid lane, setting his sights onto the set, getting poked out a little bit. In comes Lyman Nelson, a big ult out of him, and the one cleans up Bulbous, and now is grounded and pounded. A jump in from the Bacchus, but will fall to Little Bingo. And that is a 3 for nothing. Make it a 4 for nothing of the side of the King's Pawns. Now they're gonna take this tier 1 tower in the mid lane, though maybe here might have been a fire call potentially, or at least a pyro call to say the least, and they are going to turn their attention to that pyromancer now. This lead is getting, basically to that point of, insurmountability, 6K now, but into a team comp like this, their backline doesn't need to really worry about any threats. Like, what is Charybdis and this big old boy, why can't I think of his name here, Zhongqi, what do these two gods need to worry about at all right now? There's no real pressure that they have to care about. What, a level 9 jungler is going to come over? I feel like you just kind of instantly melt him and delete him. He only has a Jotuns online, only 1 item, kind of far behind in terms of gold, only 5k net worth, barely ahead of his own support. And again, these level lead gaps are starting to come in here. 2 on the support, 1 in the mid lane, 2 in the jungle, and 3 in the solo lane. I mean, at this point, the Frost Pups is going to have to maybe kind of, stretch this game out as long as they can. Look to push it to a 30-minute game. Maybe try and steal away a Fire Giant with a lucky E-set ult or something like that. Just delay as long as you possibly can, because if this game doesn't go to the 30-minute mark, it's probably going to go the way of the King's Pawns, as we do see Legacy force the ult away, the blink coming out of Lyman there, but the ult not on the mark, though he is chasing. He said, I don't care, I will get this kill. The Odin jump in, the Odin stun, and the kill. Lyman Nelson stealing that from Achilles. If I was him, I would be furious. I mean, there it is again. Why is he at the back camps? He's 2 levels down, and now Genitalia on the other side of the map, solo Sweaty Sacks, blinking by Odin there, but not on the mark to find. And Bino in the mid lane killing Vulpes. At this point in time, it's an arena game. I can't even cast it. Top hat abandoned me. I'm by myself here, and I'm just trying to spew out as much as I can.
Well, I'm here for you as well. By the way, hi everybody. I am Red Sniper 23. I've been on the camera so far, but just to a little observation here, maybe just to help out a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, give the insight.
We're into game number 2, and in game number 1, it was kind of this back and forth, really kind of weird engagements that you guys were picking out, and you were looking at things where it didn't really look like there was a clear shot caller or a clear motive, a clear intention on the part of the Frost Pups. But in the King's Pawns, you saw them group up, you start the snowball, you work with the snowball, and eventually it just kind of goes right into the Titan room. In game 2, however, you made this reference in game 1 of, it looks like a ranked game where everybody's just kind of on their own. This one almost looks like a casual game where literally not only is everybody on their own, but it's going one after the other. It's not like the team is coordinating with one another. Farmer Helen here, again, getting caught out, and it's because of the overextensions that you see the reactionary play by the Frost Pups. And so Farmer Helen gets himself in trouble. The team's kind of trying to react, but they're not all at the same spot, so maybe the mid shows up, and then the ADC shows up, and then the jungler shows up, and by the time one shows up, the other one's dead, and then the other one's dead. And it's really, really tough for the Frost Pups here to try and coordinate much of anything, and because of that, it's expounded this lead to the point where it starts becoming troublesome. And now again, we see Achilles drops the ult, but eventually Glacium will pick up the first kill for the Frost Pups. And that is at the 15th minute mark.
Yeah, and then finally, you know, maybe we start to see a little bit of life in this Frost Pups. You know, 1 kill though, by the way of 17. Yeah, a lot of what you were saying, Red. I mean, they're not coordinated at all, just kind of all over the place. You have one person jumping in. I mean, this is besides the point that they did also kind of draft diff themselves a little bit here. They picked a Bacchus into a Ganesha, already a kind of terrible matchup, in my opinion, for the Bacchus. Some would argue that though. I don't know why people believe that Bacchus kind of counters Ganesha, but I mean, like even this E set, right? They get E set number 2, but then they give up an Odin who just cages and just completely mitigates any of the healing inside of her ult. So it's just like okay, you know, maybe you guys aren't coordinated, maybe you don't have that shot caller that you need, but if you're drafting like this, how are you even expecting to win?
Well,
Right.
and even then, the idea of the Frost Pups, at least in this understanding, is if you're, and almost everybody knows this, I am a sucker for front to back, a team comp. And, okay, so you've got the E set that can get the silence. Love and hate going down to Achilles here really hurts that, though, but Legacy can dive in on the Ravana, and General Tell you picks up another one.
And now Legacy's gonna fall on the back end of this too. That's just what we're kind of saying. Like, oh, but he said all coming in to maybe save the day. But yeah, that's what we're saying. Like, look, just sporadically running around with their heads kind of like chopped off, almost like you know those old time cartoons with the clown cars, and you see 20 clowns popping out of a tiny little car. It's like the same thing, just as they run in one at a time.
Well,
Yep,
it's the hero complex kind of plays into this as well. They see somebody's in trouble, everybody tries to show up, they try to help them out. And you can't really do that in every situation. There is a few situations that call for that, but I'm yet to see a situation here in any of these games that really necessitates, you know, one by one trying to run in there and help each other out.
We like, I don't know, there's just so much that we could probably take away from this game. I mean, even look at this Nike just having a rough time, only 1.3k damage. I mean, it doesn't matter how coordinated you are. It doesn't matter how you draft. I mean, as we do see Sweaty Sacks just Aegis-ing right there. And then on the other side again, there we go. Legacy just for some reason fighting into a 1v2 and dying by himself again. But, you know, when you have your solo laner just kind of like, it doesn't seem like he's poking out in the laning phase. Doesn't seem like he's really rotating into any of these fights. But Achilles is just kind of doing all that and some more. Like, how do you expect to win a game if you're not 5-man strong at any point in time?
Right, and I think this definitely goes back to what we were talking about, where they definitely just need to start grouping up as a 5-man death ball. You know, again, getting five-man splitting farm isn't fun, but getting 5-man split farm is better than not getting any farm at all.
As we're just seeing duo trades coming out there for basically nothing. Gold Fury is spawning, so maybe, you know, maybe looking for some early kills for the Gold Fury. But I mean, at this point in time, it's like almost turn. Oh my God, a blink in and a horrific. Why does this man have horrific? I mean, I guess at this point it doesn't really matter what he has because he's just kind of doing whatever he wants. Big ult coming out, locking in both of them. Ganesh ult too, making it hard for them to escape. Silence coming out. The shell actually coming out of Farmer Helen just to get through the walls of Kabrakan, but he will fall now too. I mean, at this point, the King sponsor is kind of rubbing this one in, I feel like.
Definitely. You know, you got a humongous gold lead at this point, 18 minutes into the game. You got a huge XP lead. Just, you know, look at fire. Look at ending this game as soon as possible. I feel like playing with your food can also come back and bite you at this point. I mean, granted, it's pretty doubtful that anybody is gonna die again unless they really put themselves out of position. But it can happen. You know, I definitely think that the Frost Pups should be grouping up and start looking for anything really at this point. If you can find one person out, like Achilles over here on these back camps, you know, Iset's walking over here by herself for some reason when her support's just walking up the mid lane.
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
This is what you guys were talking about.
And yeah, that's the kind of disconnect between these teams here. You know, not really anything coordinated. As now Farmer Helen kind of jumps in, and now they're, you know, overextending here to try and chase Achilles down. But what is an ESET going to do with no percent pen, only double flat pen at this point, into an Odin that, you know, already has magical defense, has double physical? Like well, how are they going to be able to kill the soul lane? I feel like if you're going to pick somebody, you got to go for the set or something like that. I feel like, you know, maybe the target choices isn't there either for them. as we
Right.
do see the rotation in from the mid laner, Eset ulting, but again, it just tickled this Odin, and they're just basically 2v3ing them as Little Bino with the ultimate picks up Love and Hate, and now Farmer Helen jumping back in. We have an ult coming out of Ravana, same thing, does little to no damage, and now Achilles picks up Legacy, and now Eset is the next target. Genitalia running him down like a mad dog. Ult coming out, one, slowing him, forced the beads, almost falls up by way of the tower, and then picks it up with his clones, and now Fire Giant has to be the call here.
For sure. If they don't at least go for fire here, I'm gonna be a little upset. I mean, General is pretty low, so maybe he does need to reset. But the rest, these other three should definitely be looking for fire.
But no, instead they're setting their sights onto the blue buff, just gonna strip away more farm for them. I mean, again, like a lot like we were talking about last game. I feel like, oh, now they are deciding. It's kind of odd to do the buff and then go to fire jump, but you know that's the call now. I mean, I don't really see any way that they can defend this anyway. They're massively behind in every department, just kind of sporadically fighting. I mean, but I mean, what can this team do in terms of to stop this bleeding? Again, their team fighting is kind of all over the place, not really picking a target. Half the time picking, I feel like, the front line, the wrong target. I mean, what is something maybe they can do? I mean, maybe this jungler and soul laner just pray that they can maybe burn this set down and kill him, or do you just kind of hope that the King's Pawns make a mistake, maybe extend a little too far and then die?
I feel like you're definitely gonna have to lean more towards the King's Pawns making a mistake, because I haven't really. I mean,
As we see Big Odin and Ganesha all coming out, Lyman Nelson picking up the kill onto Farmer, and then dunking down on the Love and Hate as the Achilles Genitalia on the back end killing Legacy, and now he is basically 1v2ing both of the ADCs, gets dropped down by a massive Eastern old shell coming out, and another dunk from Achilles. That's the game right there, folks. There's no way that he's gonna be able to 1v5 defend this one.
Lyman just ground and pounding, trying to keep him from coming out of the base,
But a
all
decent
for nothing.
Charybdis
Oh, no.
and he falls to the Titan. I mean, I don't know how Sweaty Sacks is able to 1v5 defend that, but he actually does. As the King's Pawns are retreating, they see Farmer Helen coming too. But here it is, Farmer Helen just kind of like chasing after him. I don't know what he expects to do here. Level 11, he is gonna try and fight into an 8-level deficit as Achilles is standing there saying, "Buddy, what are you doing?" But I mean, maybe that was a little bit of a mistake we were talking about, but I mean, still, they take the Phoenix and then, you know, get some decent poke onto this Titan.
Hey, but look, this is one of those opportunities we were talking about. Sweaty Sacks just got an enormous bump to his XP. I bet you if you pull up those XP graphs, there's going to be a giant spike in it for the Frost Pups.
As we see
Wow,
Achilles
look
here
at that huge
baiting
spike.
in the jungle, actually just kind of messing around with him. Farmer Helen jumps in, that has to be the target, just kind of bursts him down. The Odin ult a little off the mark, but Little Bino picks up the kill on the Legacy. The Zhongqi ult coming out, doing insane amount of damage to this soul laner. Love and Hate very low here. Eset just kind of running away from the team on the back end as Genitalia solos the ADC in the dual lane at 23 minutes. I mean, like, the King Pawns just walk in and end this game. Like, what are they like? Why attack this mid tier 2 tower here?
Your Titan is under attack.
Sure, but I'd like more to focus on what just happened. You know, Sweaty Sacks just got an enormous shutdown bonus. Huge jump in levels. Definitely, you know, stay grouped up with your team and you all push and try and, you know, play, what's it called, protect the president with Charybdis. Charybdis is enormous and definitely has an opportunity to shred somebody. You know, you don't have your 5th item, you don't have your starter upgraded quite yet. But now you have the opportunity to create so much space because
As you see
you're
the
level
Blinken
19.
coming
You're
in
level
from the
19.
jungler here, and they pick up Vulpus on that one. A little overextended as not all of his teammates were there, and then Helen on the back end falls too. This has to be game call. Game number 2, going away of the King's Pawns. I'm calling it early here. This one isn't a fluke, and it is the game.
It's really unfortunate. You know, probably one of the biggest tips that I would give for the Frostpups here is to at least communicate better. I feel like, you know, watching you run in one at a time just over and over and over is not a winning recipe, a winning strategy. It's just so unfortunate to watch such a big difference between teams, you know, like this. I feel like when you have your opportunities to do something, capitalize on them for sure, but don't throw your life away trying to do that. Going 0-11 is just it's tough to see. It's not. I'm sure it's not fun to do either, but don't give up hope. Reach out. The QSL community is incredibly helpful. If you need, if you feel like you're struggling with your lane, or you feel like you're struggling with how to do team comps, really anything, just reach out to the QSL community. They're out
Uh,
here for a reason.
Yeah, the King's Pawn showing a dominant performance, but I mean, Frost Pups. They can. I just feel like they need that little bit of something extra, right? Maybe just have someone, shotgun. I feel like there wasn't any of that. Maybe
Mhm.
go in the lab and just, even if you have to play casuals at this point, just kind of go in. Maybe get one organized team fight going, something like that. I feel like in those two games, there wasn't a single organized team fight by the Frost Pups at all. I saw 1v3s. I saw 2v3s. I saw that at no point did I see a team fight where they had an actual advantage at any and at any point, any time of any of those games. I mean, I mean, besides maybe that, what are some other takeaways you could have for these Frostbucks? Maybe they kind of look to improve for their next set.
Yeah, I think another issue that a lot of these Amaz teams were running into at the very start of the season was having a shot caller. Having somebody that really has at least a basic understanding of how the map works. When to be in this position, and why, uh, where you should be starting your team fights, where somebody should be inting even. Sometimes it's worth trading your life to kill the 10-1 ADC just so you can get the shutdown bonus. But it's hard to find the one exact reason that a team gets blown out like this. It's always more than one reason. And once you guys as a team can figure it out, can learn how to hold each other accountable for making small mistakes, without being mean to each other or anything like that. Just talk it out, figure it out, work together. Do VOD reviews. VOD reviews are massive. And I'll say it again, reach out to the QSL community. There's chats that are specific for each lane. Ask questions. Everybody I feel like is usually in this league to learn and get better. And there's a lot of people that are out there to help you out.
Yeah, I mean, some decent helpful advice there in terms of MVPs here. I feel like almost anybody on the entire King's Pawns can be given MVP. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe you just give it to Achilles or maybe Genitalia. Genitalia did have a massive game one, though. Most of our attention was on Achilles, just kind of dominating that solo
Absolutely.
lane and bringing that pressure. I mean, but Genitalia did have a massive game one too. I mean, who do you think deserves this MVP?
I kind of want to go towards Achilles. I feel like when your solo laner is always dominating lane and is always setting your team up for success, always creating huge space so your backline can really get in there and do their damage, is a massive plus. I know solo laners occasionally get tossed to the side, even supports. I mean, look at Arc. Man went 0-0 and 25. It's a lot of assists. The man's getting in there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, you can give it to Arc too. I mean, Arc
Mhm.
0 and 25 never even died during this entire game. Had a lot of impactful ults too. I mean,
Definitely.
again, yeah, like we were saying, any single person could have been the MVP of this. I don't know, Panda, are they trying to do an interview? Okay, well, all right. On that note, that was our set between the King's Pawns and the Frost Pups. We are actually going to go to a short intermission, and then we'll come back to you with a interview with who we believe to be the MVP of that set.
Yes, sir. And hello, everybody. I'm here with General Telia, the ADC for the Pawns. How you doing, man?
Doing good, coming off a win.
Heck yeah, that's what I like to hear. So I think the most obvious question to ask here is, what made you feel comfortable enough to pick this set?
So after game one, we do a lot of prep before games, and then we go into game two. After game one, it was I'm just gonna say easy
Mhm.
that we were down to try some new stuff.
Okay.
And like mid picks and bans, we were like, what if we just get like a run at 'em comp? So we picked the set and just went around that, just trying to dive the back line, just have some fun.
Absolutely, I feel that. Now, as an ADC, I'm sure you're always happy to have such a proficient front line. I feel like every
yes.
game I see, your front line is always creating so much space to do your job. How does that work for you guys? How do you guys create such a good chemistry with your team to make that happen?
So I feel like we're one of the better team fighting comps. Like our lanes usually aren't like super dominant anyway, but whenever we transition to team fights, we do really well. And a lot of that is because of the pressure that Achilles and Nelson and Arc are able to make. Because whenever they can just push up and get good CC, get good target calls, it makes me and Nino's job in the backline just able to free cast. And me and Nino sit on each other really well for peel. So it really does good in our team fights, as I feel like where we're strong.
Yeah, yes, sir. And as far as I'm aware, that this game here kind of just cements your positioning here for the playoffs. Are you guys ready? Are you excited?
Yeah, we prep a lot for a lot of our games. We get a lot of coaching. What can we do better? Even in that game, I mean, we got our coaches telling us, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? So we get a lot of prep done. We have cookie cutters coming up. Should be a good game. They got some good players on there. They are also undefeated, I think, but I feel like we have a good shot, depending, especially with who we've played. So
Well, good. I'm happy to hear that. I look forward to casting the next game that y'all play because y'all look pretty dominant.
feels that way right now.
Good. Well, I believe that's it for me.
Yeah, and you kind of hit the mark there. I don't have any questions either. And on that note, another great set here between the Kings Pawns and Frost Pups. I'm Hunter. With me, as always, Top Hat. We're normally a dynamic duo of the casting table. We have Mr. Red Sniper on production, and General Talion here forcing us to do this interview. That's it. Have a great night.
See y'all later.